Good morning, college prep scholars. Today we will be going over last week's claims question quiz, reviewing the claims question approach and modifying it for charts. You don't have to take new notes, but I encourage you to add to the notes questions the notes that you have on claims questions. We will study an example from Princeton of a charts question, and then your quiz will ask you to identify the question types that we've studied so far and to talk about the approach or to identify the approach that you should take to them. First, let's review. How many sections are there on the SAT and what are they? Within each section, how many modules are there and why? How many questions are on each reading, writing module? And how many minutes do you have for the module as a whole? Within the reading, writing module, according to Princeton, how many sections are there? There are 3 sections: the reading questions, the rules questions, and the rhetoric questions. And within the reading, writing module, they will always appear in that order. They'll be in chunks. And the first half of the module is going to be those reading questions that right now we are in the midst of. So within that reading section, how many question types are there? If you said 8, you are correct. Vocab, purpose, dual text, retrieval, main idea, and claims, which we have studied. Main idea not directly, but kind of indirectly. This week we are working on charts questions and conclusions questions. So let's take a look first at the claims question that was on your quiz last week. I've listened to all of the spoken responses for the 6th-hour class, the first hour of the day, and about half of the spoken responses for my 8th-hour class. And so far, overall, they have been really strong. You guys are really becoming experts at applying Princeton's method to the questions. Just remember, you're doing more than just listing the steps. You're actually using them in your spoken response. So let's just review first off, what is a claim? A claim is a statement or assertion that someone makes that has to be supported by evidence. To support a claim is to go with it or make it stronger. To weaken it is like pulling one of those pillars out from underneath your aqueduct and going against the claim. So when you're dealing with a claims question, or in this case, a charts question, it is really, really important to be aware of exactly what the question is asking you to do. Is it asking you to illustrate, support, or weaken a claim? And what claim is it? Some of the questions are going to tell you to look for a specific claim within the passage, and that was definitely true of the question that was on last week's quiz. I want to give a special shout out to, I believe it was Naomi, who in her spoken response actually emphasized that and zeroed straight in on the claim. So let's take a look at this. I'll try to give a decent demo of what you should do in a spoken response. So first, I read the question. Which quotation from a scholarly review of blah blah blah's work best supports the student's claim? Next, I identify the question type. I see the word support. I see the word claim. So I know that this is a claims question. As Naomi pointed out, she zeroed in on this because this question is asking you to support the student's claim. There are at least 2 claims in this passage, but the student's claim is the one you want to support. Okay, so now we read the passage, and then we will want to highlight the claim that we're being asked to support or weaken. Born in the Dominican Republic and fleeing from that country at a young age, writer blah 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 focuses much of her writing on her experience as an immigrant, her bicultural identity, and the role of women in public life. Her novels explore the apathy revolving around the lack of accessible health care in countries with a high rate of poverty, helping readers to become aware of this inequality and seek change to correct it. In an essay, okay, now we're getting to the student part of it, so let's get rid of all this. In an essay, a student states that specific aspects of Alvarez's work help to introduce this inequality to readers in an accessible way. This refers back to lack of accessible health care. So we did have to read the passage in order to get that. Okay, so now we're going to, drum roll please, use POE to knock out wrong answers and see what we have left. So let's go ahead and go to the answer choices, keeping that claim in mind. Okay. In Alvarez's, choice A. In Alvarez's most recent novel, she focuses on a family living in the Dominican Republic who rely on a volunteer organization for health care. So this is definitely about health care. It is definitely about countries that Americans would consider impoverished. And the fact that they're relying on a volunteer organization shows that maybe there's no healthcare system. So we're going to hold that one open as a possibility. B. Alvarez's novels explore a life in the Dominican Republic, namely how a group of sisters work together to help the citizens escape the rule of a country's dictator. No. The claim, student's claim, which is here, has absolutely nothing to do with the dictator. It's about healthcare. C. When Alvarez moved to the United States, she was forced to learn a new language and become familiar with new and unfamiliar customs in order to fit in with her community. Now, that claim about her moving to the United States actually is in there. It is in the passage, so it's kind of a trap answer because it's half right. You have to know that this is about the student's claim, and the student is focusing on healthcare inequalities, not on learning a new language. Alvarez's husband is a doctor who's traveled to many impoverished countries where he's assisted with the medical treatment of citizens. This is about healthcare inequality, but it's about Alvarez's husband, not her herself, so we could knock this out. And clearly A is the right answer, which many of you got. Okay, so let us move on to charts questions, which are really, really similar to claims questions. They just have charts in them that you have to read and interpret data. So you don't need to take new notes, yay, but you might want to add to the notes that you have on claims questions. So as with charts questions and all the reading questions, you read the question first. Identify its type, and again, exactly what it asks you to do. So you're looking for illustrate, support, and then I found the word complete in today's example, so I added that, or weaken. And remember, those are opposite things. Support is opposite of weaken. And then that's going to be a claim, hypothesis, argument, or prediction. In the case of today's sample question, it's an example. Next, second step, and this is counterintuitive, read the chart. Don't go straight to the passage, because the passage could bias you. Princeton says to read the chart first. Read its title, read its key or legend, read the variables and units that are in it. I'm sorry, this should be plural. That's bothering me. Read the variables and units that are in it. Get familiar with the chart and have some idea of what it's saying before you read the passage. Okay, that will assure you don't jump to conclusions, and you can efficiently process the chart again once you start using POE. Step 3, read the passage and look for the same information you saw in the chart. Much of the passage will be background info, so you can blast through it. Don't skip it entirely because there might be important things in there, but you don't have to zero in on it a lot. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. So speed through the background info. Look for where the author references the same values as in the chart and make some statement about them. And, you know what's coming, highlight that claim. Often the claim will appear toward the end of the passage. If the claim is long, you can summarize it in an annotation. Then, you know what's next, and I should have made this number 5. I'm sorry. Use POE. Knock out those answers that don't match with the claim or the data in the chart. Watch out for half-right answers. They describe the data perfectly, but they're irrelevant to the question. There may be other answers that don't describe the data or that describe the data in a way that's incorrect. Obviously, you can knock those out as well. Okay, so that is the basic approach for the charts questions according to Princeton. So let's take a look at how to apply that approach to a question that is in the book and that they tell us how to solve. So let's say you're taking your SAT, you're in the midst of the reading questions, You open up this question, you look at it, and you're like, oh my gosh, this looks huge. I really don't want to deal with it. You might decide these kinds of questions are not in your POOD. But if you're a math person and you like charts and graphs and data, you might decide this is exactly the kind of question for you, and it might turn out to be simpler than it looks. So let's go ahead, get our editing tools out, and apply the Princeton approach. I'm going to see what I can do, and I have the cheat sheet in the book to kind of guide me through it. So what do we do first? Read the question first. So your eyes are going to go straight to that question, and you're going to read it to yourself. Which choice most effectively uses data in the graph to complete the example? So none of this language is what we're used to with claims questions, but it's the same kind of idea. You've got data in a graph, and you have to complete an example. It's going to be kind of like the claims questions that end with a colon or a space. All right, so now let's follow Princeton's advice and read the graph, the chart. Percentage of material of items broken by 3 different types of robotic grippers. So it's some kind of little robot hand that grabs things, and it breaks things. So we have an AI gripper, we have sensor gripper, and we have a tentacle gripper. I have no idea what those are. So those are the types of grippers. Within the types of grippers, we have 3 different bar graphs. One for glassware, that's light gray. One for fruit, that's the darker one. One for cell tissue, that's in between. So these must be 3 kinds of things, 3 kinds of items that the gripper can grip. And then over here on the y-axis, we have the percentage of items broken. So it seems like the AI gripper breaks a higher percentage of cell tissue than it does glassware. Okay, so we have some idea of what this chart is telling us. It's telling us about robotic grippers and the things that they are more likely to break. Okay. Robotic gripping tools, I'm going to highlight just to help me read. You should not highlight this when you do your questions. Robotic gripping tools are often used to retrieve both organic and inorganic matter from the ocean floor, such as priceless artifacts, lost to shipwrecks, and fragile sea coral specimens. Okay, this is just background info. We're going to speed through it. Most of these devices rely on artificial intelligence programs or precise sensors to function effectively. Now remember, we're looking for a statement that matches what's in the chart. Scientists from Harvard's blah 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 School of Engineering and Applied Sciences performed an experiment to evaluate a novel approach. They designed a pressure gripper modeled after jellyfish tentacles. Okay, I see the word tentacles. And whoops, that is up here. So we've got tentacles. And tested its ability to pick up different objects compared to other robotic grippers. More objects were able to be picked up without damage by the tentacle gripper than by the other grippers, for example. So the right answer is going to have objects in it that are not damaged, and where the tentacle gripper did better by damaging fewer objects. So now we have an idea of the claim that we're being asked to support, or the information that's going to support this claim. The claim is, maybe I should actually just really highlight it. More objects were able to be picked up without damage by the tentacle gripper than by the other grippers, for example. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the answer choices and see if we can knock out any of these using POE. For fruit objects, the sensor gripper broke a greater percentage of objects than did the AI gripper. So this is about the sensor and the AI, but the one we have to find out about is the tentacle gripper. So we're going to knock this out. That's got to be wrong. B, it's a half right answer. B, a lower percentage of each respective object type was broken by the tentacle gripper than by either the sensor gripper or the AI gripper. A lower percentage was broken. Is this true? Yeah, it seems to be true. This has the lowest features of all of them. So this is true, but I'm not sure it's the most relevant because they're looking for an example. Okay. The sensor gripper broke a higher percent of objects of each respective type than did the other 2 grippers. That is false. The opposite is true. It broke a lower percentage. So we're going to cross that out because it's wrong. For cell tissue, each of the 3 respective types of grippers recorded a higher percentage of broken items than they did for either glassware or fruit. Cell tissue. That is true, but it does not support the claim. The claim is that the tentacle gripper is best, so it can't be that one. So we are going to go with B. Let me see what the Princeton cheat sheet says. Choices A, C, and D should be eliminated for the exact same reason. They're all half right answers. Each one of them accurately describes, so the answers that we knocked out, each of these accurately describes the bar graph. Well, hang on, one of them didn't. And if you started your POE by comparing answers to the graph first, it could have taken some time to understand why these answers were wrong. The flaw in all these answers is they don't address the statement. So choice B should be kept because it's the only one that's consistent with the bar graph as well as the claim. Notice if you kept your POE to the highlighting only, you could have drastically reduced the time needed to use POE on this question. Okay, so this is how you deal with a charts question. It is super similar to a lot of the other questions we've dealt with. You have to zero in on the claim. Well, it's similar to claims questions. You have to zero in on the claim. Let me get rid of all this. And you have to know exactly what it is asking you for. I think tentacles was a key word there. And then once you get that claim, you knock out the things that don't fit and see what is left. So, okay, so that is how we do these types of questions. And that is all the information I have for you. You're doing this as an ed puzzle. When you're done with the ed puzzle, I'm going to make a quizzes for you that has maybe a couple samples of each type of question in it, where I just want you to kind of review. It's purely objective, no spoken response. I want you to review the question types and make sure that you can identify them and be aware of the basic approach to each question type and how it might be slightly different for each. And when I say question types, I mean, come on, slow Wi-Fi, let's go, 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 go. I mean the 8 things that we are studying within the reading section of the reading writing module. Thank you.